Welcome back to Cryptid Mysterious. Today's encounter comes to us from Jesse Long and Tom Prentice out of the Lewis and Clark National Forest. Here's their encounter. Tommy and I do more than our fair share of hiking in the state on a regular basis. The more we hike, the more we like to go back to some of our favorite locations, including Trick Falls on Two Medicine Creek. It has heavily timbered and rocky terrain, which brings out the best in both of us. It is also a worthy day hike, with a high point spent chilling out at Trick Falls. This area lies between the boundaries of the Lewis and Clark National Forest. Whenever I'm here, I can't help but think of what their lives and adventures must have been like when they came through here. Lewis and Clark, that is. The funny thing is that I get to go home at the end of the day, but those guys just kept going, day after day. The sheer magnificence of this landscape and the majesty of the surrounding forest and mountains must have blown them away. They were the first white men known to have seen it for themselves. I must warn you, however, that there's an abundance of wildlife here, like you've never seen. The cougar, wolverine, and grizzly are not to be taken lightly by any means. For this reason, we always carry a sidearm at all times. You can run across anything at any time, which we were about to learn on this day's hike. Some days, we like to come in on the hike at the base of the falls, but on this day we came in from the top side. We sat by the edge for about an hour, trying to solve the problems of the world. At this point, Two Medicine is extremely narrow, as it funnels over the rocks down into the pool below. Oftentimes, when we're there, we've said to each other that we could stay here for the rest of our lives and not be sad. Such is the effect that this slice of heaven has on a man's body and spirit. As you sit at the top, you're enveloped by a dense pine timber on both sides. Now, I don't want to make it sound like hearing things in the woods here is all that unusual, but on this particular day, we heard the sound of the rocks in the creek behind us clacking together, the way they sound when you walk on them. Both of our heads spun around at the same time, and we saw a Bigfoot stepping across the creek from one side to the other. Almost instantaneously, he was gone. It reminded both of us of a brief cougar sighting we had just up the creek 2 years earlier. We'd stopped by the creek for a breather when we heard a small noise that sounded out of place. Turning our heads, we locked eyes with a cougar staring at us through the brush, maybe 10 feet away. As soon as I locked eyes with her, she disappeared. This was very much the same, only we didn't lock eyes. We simply heard something that sounded out of place for a second, and the beast was gone like a ghost. Jesse is totally right on the money with everything he's told you up to this point, but I feel like this is a good time to clear the air a little bit with those who don't believe in these creatures. Between the two of us alone, we have seen everything that lives in this region at least once, and most of them dozens of times through the years. We've been hiking this area going on 20 years together, and God only knows how many miles and hours we've spent together here. Just like any other professionals, we know things about what we do that others can't comprehend. Like when something doesn't feel or look right, or in this case, when something sounds out of place for a moment in time. We are in touch with ourselves and our surroundings at all times. When this Bigfoot walked behind us, there was no mistaking what we were looking at. It was immediately recognized by us as being exactly what it is, a massive, tall, hair-covered giant. This was not a man in some costume, and not a bear doing a circus walk. When it walked by, it wasn't looking at us at all. It simply was walking straight ahead and didn't even know we were there. Unfortunately, we weren't going to jump to our feet and chase after it. If this beast had a mean disposition, it could have done both of us in right there and then, with or without a handgun. We waited a couple of minutes and then stood, moving to where it had just ducked into the trees. There wasn't much of a trail there, but there was a slight opening in the pines. Who knows if it comes through there? Who knows if it comes through there often, or if it was just passing through. This thing was everything that you've seen and heard before. Its hand swung just below the knees as it passed by. I think we would both agree that, for the most part, its hair looked to be about 6 inches long all over the body. I remember that its upper lat muscles were hugging the side of its head. And if it had ears, they were either hidden under the fur or by the muscles. One thing is for certain, and that is it had big feet with hair hanging off the sides. Whenever we see something for the first time, which on this day had just happened to be a Bigfoot, it makes me think of the greatness of God's creation. Each of the creatures are uniquely and fantastically formed for some purpose on this earth. I don't believe that they're to be feared, but rather respected, and we need to keep our distance in the same way we do with all animals. To me, it's when the human element infringes on their space and in their lives that the trouble begins. Now, I do believe that there may be some that have different dispositions, be they mean or nice, just like many other animals, especially if they're capable of greater things than, say, a bear. My own belief is that anything created with a hand has a leg up intellectually and is endowed with certain skills above and beyond every other creature. In other words, they were given those hands and fingers for a reason. I also think that hands and fingers bring them into the realm of puzzle solvers, which intellectually puts them in a better standing within the animal kingdom. That's just my opinion, and I voice it as such. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Let me know what you think in the comments. Has anyone been up there to the Lewis and Clark National Forest? Have you seen anything out of the ordinary? If you've had an encounter with a Bigfoot or any other cryptid, I'd love to hear about it. Send an email to cryptidmysterious@gmail.com. I'll see you in the next one.